the lady of boxing, AVA KNIGHT. Thank you very much for coming out to theboxingbar.com and welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's go ahead and get to know you a little bit. Where were you born and raised?
I grew up in Chico, California. I lived the first 23 years there. Nice small town, party town. And started boxing over there at 13, and, it went really well.
And what was it like being born and raised out of Chico? What was your childhood like?
Childhood was really good. When I was younger, it was not a very mixed racial town, but, coming up, it got better and better, and I think when I was in high school, it was like number 2 in the country for party schools, but you just got to fight through all that, and boxing kept me straight and focused, and I just let all that pass by.
And what was your childhood like growing up? What was your relationship with your siblings or your parents? What were you guys like in the household?
I had a good upbringing. I had my both parents with me. We started out low income, and my mom worked her butt off and brought us up and out. I have 2 sisters. We really have a really close family. They all support each other and help each other out.
Was it Chico that hardened you up, made you tough, or how was it that you became a boxer?
I started at 13 going to the gym. I had never seen a boxing match, talked about boxing, or even thought about it. But I had a friend whose father had a friend that was going to the gym, and there's only one boxing gym in Chico. It's a pretty small town. And I ended up walking in and messing around like it was nothing, like it was just another gym to play around in. But once I got into the ring and got knocked down by my friend, I figured out this is what I want to do. So I kept at it.
And before getting into boxing, were you athletic in other sports?
I always loved to play other sports. We had lunch and stuff, but I never did any extracurricular activities. We couldn't afford school sports, so it's something I couldn't partake in. But going to boxing was the first sport I ever tried. And it really is true when they say boxing is a poor man's sport because, we couldn't afford the school sports and the basketball, but boxing is always there for, the community and everybody who can't do all those extra things.
And what was it like for you when you first started going to the gym? Did it come pretty natural to you, or is it something that you had to work at really hard to get good at?
It seemed like it was a natural thing for me, since I didn't really know what it was and what I was doing. I excelled really fast. I was there for a year and then had my first fight. And after losing my first fight, I think at 14, I didn't lose for another 3 or 4 years. So it came natural to me, and finding out that my father used to box as a kid, just, I think it's part of it. So it's just natural talent.
And what was your amateur career like?
I ended it at 28-4. I went to nationals once, got silver, and, the 4 losses that I have, one of them I got to make good on that. The other 3 I didn't. But it's a good career. I had a lot of people scared, a lot of people fighting 2 or 3 times that couldn't beat me, and, I can't complain.
At what point did you finally realize that you were going to leave the amateur ring life? When did you figure it was time to move on?
I think at 16 and 17, the fights started dwindling. It was like 1 or 2 fights every 6 months. And it was really hard up here in Northern California. There's not too many females. So I got to a point where I said, when I turn 18, I just want to go pro. And at that time, we had no hope for women in the Olympics. So I just decided to take that step up so I could hopefully fight more often. And turned 18. It took a while before I could even do that. I think almost when I turned 19 was when I had my first fight.
Let's say your first fight, your pro debut, you get to the arena and you're in the dressing room right before you go out through the drapes for the first night. What was it like in that locker room for your first debut fight? What was it like there in Colusa, California before the fight?
Yeah, I think everybody was nervous except for me. I just didn't know what to expect, so I wasn't nervous at all, and I was just ready for it, and everybody else was squirming around, shaking their knees. But it ended up after that fight, so the nerves started coming before every fight. But, the first one was a good one. It was a great test. It was with a girl a little bigger. She had a fight already, and it was a good fight.
And you got that decision in 4 rounds against Leonie Hall. You have several fights there, and then you go up and you fight Kalisha West, Wild Wild West. And she goes in with a 10-0 perfect record. You go in to fight that fight, and she was probably favorite to win here in Fremont, California at the Table Mountain Casino. What was it like before the fight, knowing that you were going to fight this undefeated fighter? Did you feel confident for this particular fight?
I've always had the attitude of, win or lose, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm just going to go in there and do my best. And I knew that she was top of the line. She had over 100 amateur fights, so I was ready for it all. We came in there and we put on a really good show. We both have styles that complement each other. We don't make each other look real bad, or we don't make the other one look real good either. But I just ended up, my game plan worked better than hers, and she just didn't seem like she was ready for it, and I came out with that win.
And that was for the IFBA North American Bantamweight title there. How did you feel like raising that belt at the end of the fight?
It was great. I was really happy, but it seemed like after the fight, everybody was upset, like I wasn't supposed to win, and it kind of put me in this position where I got to see really what boxing was about. Like, sometimes it's really not about the real winner, it's just about what they wanted. But, I was proud, my family was proud. I went out there and did my job, and I won that belt that night.
And a few fights up, she gets that rematch to try to get that belt. And you guys fight again to a draw. Is there a possibility that you guys might be having a third fight there, since you're up one and then you get a draw in that second one?
Well, she's up at a weight class now, 118, and I'm down at 112 where I should be. 118 really is my weight class, I think. Fighting-wise, we're both real similar. We both have power. We both, have skills. We're very technical, but the one thing she has on me is her size, and, walking around and bigger than me. Even though we weigh in at the same, it's just in a fight you can feel the difference, and I believe she's moving up to 122, so, maybe down the line, a few years, if I come up, it would be another great third fight, but I think right now it's nothing that we're looking at seriously just because of where we've gone in weight.
And your next fight up was against Arely Musino in Mexico, in Colima, Mexico, in her home country. She's a very tough competitor. You go in there, knock her out in 2 rounds. What do you remember about that particular fight going into that one?
I was very confident in that fight. We trained really hard. We got the call about 2.5 weeks out, but we already knew what we were going to do and what we planned for. It's really hard to fight someone in their own country, so we planned for the knockout. And after the first round, feeling her out, seeing where both of our power laid, the second round I just went after her.
And knocked out you did. And you go up for your next fight, and you win, you get a knockout again in the 10th round. I mean, you obviously have power, and you obviously have stamina if you could get a knockout in the 10th round.
Mm-hmm. That 10-round fight was great. My opponent, Hong Fa, she was really tough. She was young, and, it seems like she had started fighting at 16, which is, to me, sounds a little crazy, but, it's a different country. But she was really tough. She took a lot of blows. I asked the people what the scorecards were, and I won every round. But I remember my coach telling me in the last round just to take her out. I've never been the fighter that if I'm winning, I'm just going to run and float it off. I want to go out with a bang, so that's what I did.
And your nickname, the Lady of Boxing, how did you get that?
I got that from my former coach, Joe Rodriguez in Chico. I used to always be in the gym, quiet and calm. I don't cuss. I was always polite, do what I was supposed to do, please and thank you. And he just always called me a lady. So after I started boxing for a while, he just started calling me the Lady of Boxing.
So you're supposed to fight, I believe, at the end of June, at the end of the month.
Mhm.
And who are you gonna fight? Where and how can we watch that?
We're going down to Mexico again. I'm not sure about the city, but I'm fighting Susana Vasquez, and she's a good fighter. She's up there in some rankings, so we're expecting a great fight. Unfortunately, they don't televise the fights that I've been in the United States, but in other countries, they're fortunate they get to watch it.
And in the top 3, or in most people's top 3, along with you, you're in the top 3, is Melissa McMarrow from the Bay Area. Is there a possibility you might fight her, the person considered the number 1, Mariana Juarez? What are your possibilities of fighting them down the line?
Hopefully they come very soon, because I really just want to fight the best right now. I feel like everyone else is just a practice for them. So Melissa's really close. Hopefully we can get something going on right here locally, because we're both right around the corner from each other. And we've seen each other through, we fought 3 times in the amateurs, so, it's something that's going to be a real good fight. And Mariana Juarez, she's a great fighter in Mexico, and she's got a big reputation. So I'm ready for it all.
Women boxing, for whatever reason, I've asked a lot of people about what they think of female fighters. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of people that think bad of women boxing. What do you say to those people, and what do you think of women's boxing, and how do you think it should be equal to men boxing?
There's a lot of different angles you can look at it. I really don't think women's boxing is equal to men just because we're different in many ways. In a promoter's standpoint, if we're fighting and they're pumping up a big fight and something bad happens to one of us, it's really hard to replace a fallen opponent. So, it's not like the men where we can just bring someone up the next day and it's okay. So, that's, a few reasons why maybe we shouldn't be the same, but we should be pretty darn close. And, there's a lot of us women who fight really good. Like me and Kalisha, we both put on great fights. She's an excellent fighter in her weight class. I'm an excellent fighter in my weight class. I'm sure lots of people would love to see us fight. And, many of the people who don't like women's boxing maybe haven't watched it, or maybe they've watched the wrong sort of fight. We put our heart and soul into this. We don't have money motivation like everybody else, like the men do. We're fighting from our heart. So they have to give us credit for that.
Well said. Boxing in general is a warrior sport. Being a warrior is a human instinct. Men and women are both human, so they can both be warriors, and they could both be great in the ring, in my opinion. Thank you very much, Ava, for coming on to theboxingbar.com, and I hope to have you after you get your next win.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.